So it seems like we're living in a simulation when it comes to new iPhone releases. There seems to be a big build up the many months before the release, and then the actual day comes and in my opinion, it seems to be almost the same thing repackaged with some minor updates which are just not worth the upgrade. Let me tell you why I bought an iPhone 14 Pro in 2024 instead of a shiny new iPhone 15 Pro. And before you click off, this isn't just me bashing the new iPhone, because there are some things that I genuinely like about it which we'll discuss later on in the video. Let's get to it. So I've split this video into sections with timestamps so I don't forget anything. There's a lot to discuss, so let's just jump straight into the first point, which is the design. Now, the design for the iPhone 14 Pro introduced a whole stunning new upgrade with the flat edges and of course a new notch in the middle of the screen. Now, in my opinion, this sleek appearance really does set it apart from the older iPhones, but in terms of the difference between the 14 and the 15, I can't really see that many differences with the design. In fact, in my opinion, it's almost the same thing, and the functionality mainly comes from software anyway, which most new iPhones get. The only thing that was updated in terms of design was the rounded edges, but upgrading for just that was not justifiable. When you put them side by side, in my opinion, they genuinely look exactly the same. Now, I really do like the notch on the 14 and 15, and especially as I was coming from the 13 Pro Max, that notch functionality is something which I don't think you really appreciate until you have it. And I think that if you've got one of the older phones, you won't really understand why it might be helpful until you get it. That being said, let's move on to the next point, which is the display. Now, the Super Retina XDR display on the 14 Pro is breathtaking and really does deliver a visually stunning experience with its high refresh rate. Now, of course, before buying it, I did do some research, but when I was planning this video, I did some more research, and you guys have got to hear this because it truly is crazy. The 14 Pro and the 15 Pro displays are almost identical. Well, actually, I think that they're exactly the same. The 14 and 15 Pro have the exact same XDR display, the PPI is the same, the dynamic island is the same, which is the notch, the always on display is the same ProMotion technology, the same refresh rate, the same HDR display, the same True Tone, the same colors, the same haptic touch, the same contrast ratio, the same max brightness, and the same fingerprint resistant coating. Now, it's mad to think that these two phones have the exact same display because the price difference between both is crazy. But then again, I guess because they're only released a year apart, there's not that many upgrades that come within that year. You really got to ask yourself, what exactly is the upgrade between the two phones that justifies the price difference? Moving on to the camera system now, and the 14 Pro really has made significant camera advancements. It has a larger sensor and better software for professional photography, meaning that when you're out and about, you can just pull out your camera from your phone and it makes it easier to capture footage in comparison to having a bigger professional camera. The 15 Pro, on the other hand, is a huge upgrade. Now, if the camera is something that is the most important thing for you, then of course I would definitely recommend getting the 15. But it's not to say that the 14 is bad by any means. I mean, just a year prior it was released as one of the greatest phone cameras that Apple has ever released. But the 15, I think, can almost certainly replace a professional camera for most people. Now, you would have seen as I'm talking that there has been some images captured from both overlaid on top, and both really do excel. The last point before hearing about the cost difference for me is performance and battery life, and these two things arguably are the most important. Now, with performance and battery life in the 14 Pro, that is powered with the A16 Bionic chip, and honestly it handles tasks effortlessly. While the 15 Pro does have the A17 chip, the performance leap may not actually be a game changer for everyday use. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because the 14 Pro has incredible performance, and it's so good that I think at a certain point with the human eye, no matter how much better it is on paper, you can't really see that performance boost showcase in everyday use. And I think to actually tell the difference between the two, you would need a machine of some sort to record the upgrade. Because I personally, when I have them side by side, cannot see a performance change. I think they're both really, really good and they're both blazingly fast. Now, although the 15 on paper is faster, I think the 14 is so fast that I really wouldn't upgrade if it was performance for yourself. Now, in terms of battery life, the 14 Pro is of course impressive, but I will say one thing. For context, I did upgrade from the 13 Pro Max, And you might be wondering, well, why would you go from the 13 to the 14? That's almost the same thing that you're talking about in the video, which is true. But you'll figure out why I upgraded a bit later on when we talk about value for money. But just for the time being, for context, I did have the 13 Pro Max, and that battery would last the whole day and even go into the next day on a single charge with that battery health being at 88%, not even 100%. Now, my 14 Pro has 100% battery health, but as it is smaller, I think the battery itself is smaller. Well, actually, not that I know that the battery is smaller. So I do get a whole day of continuous use out of it, but I do need to charge it at night so that I get full percentage in the next day. The 15 Pro, of course, has amazing battery life and it will be able to do exactly what my 13 was doing, a lot better. But the 14 Pro is still very impressive for most people. Now, for me personally, I'm not a big user of my phone, so it doesn't really affect me that much. Let's talk about why you guys have clicked this video now anyway, and talk about value for money. Why did I upgrade? What did it cost me? Did I really need to upgrade? And let's just start by answering all of those questions in one. In terms of value for money, I do really think that I got an amazing deal with my phone. Now, I had the 13 Pro Max, like I said earlier, and I didn't even really need to upgrade, but I was just scrolling through eBay, looking at stuff, selling stuff, and I noticed a listing come up on my page, which was for a 14 Pro, and the price really was pretty good. I mean, the bidding was starting at £400, and it was coming up towards the end of the bidding anyway. So I thought, if I pick this up, even if I sell it on further, I'm going to make money. Now, I would never bid for something like that randomly, but because eBay has quite good protection now for buyers and sellers, I thought I'd just give it a shot. Worst comes to worst, I'll just make a case through eBay and get my money back. All in all, after the bidding had finished, I managed to pick it up for £500, which of course was used on eBay, but the battery life was 100%. There was no visible scratches from the pictures, and it was listed that there was no scratches in the description. So again, if it did come or busted up, I would have just contacted eBay and got my money back and sent the phone back to the seller. Now, in comparison to the 15, when I was looking, there's of course no used ones on the market at the moment. So looking at a brand new one, it's almost double the price of the £500 that I paid for the 14 Pro. As I wasn't really going to upgrade in the first place, this was not a question for me and I didn't even want to look. The good thing for me is that if I sell the 13 Pro Max that I have, I'll basically get the same thing back. So essentially, the upgrade didn't cost me anything. So if you're thinking about going for the 14 Pro or the 15 Pro, I will say one thing. The main thing that I think it boils down to is, are you a big user of the camera? And is battery life that important to you that you won't be able to go through 2 days of charge without wanting to recharge it again? So the 14 Pro is still an amazing choice compared to the 15 Pro, and I think both are a really good choice, but it just depends, of course, on your financial situation and the points I mentioned in the video. That wraps up the breakdown of why I chose a 14 Pro over the 15 Pro in 2024. If you did find this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.